Germany takes over the chair of the G7 this year, putting it in the midst of some major challenges facing this club of rich democracies. It's an early test on the world stage for the new chancellor, Olaf Scholz, after he took over from Angela Merkel. The pandemic will likely dominate the agenda, with the G7 under pressure to do more to end the huge inequality in access to vaccines around the world. And on climate change, Scholz is expected to push his idea of a climate club. That's a plan to help like-minded countries coordinate their emission targets. And one key question, will Scholz pursue US President Joe Biden's efforts to get democracies to rally together against China? And we are now joined by DW's chief international editor, Richard Walker. Richard, this is Olaf Scholz's debut as a host of a big international group, following in Angela Merkel's footsteps there. What can we expect from him?
Yeah, they are pretty big footsteps to follow in, of course, aren't they, Gerhard? Angela Merkel in office for 16 years. She chaired 2 G7 summits during her time. So that summit coming up in June this year will be Olaf Scholz's real debut on this kind of premier level of the international stage as host. But as finance minister in his previous role over the past 4 years, he certainly has had exposure to this kind of level of diplomacy. And his people point to something of a success last year, where he was one of the driving forces behind, we reported on this, the idea of a global minimum tax for corporations to try to prevent especially big tech giants from kind of free riding on taxes by setting up their taxes in low tax economies. So that was very much an Olaf Scholz initiative, and I think we can expect to see more initiatives from him like that on the world stage. But what he is not is the kind of chest-thumping guy who's going to stand up on the stage and say, this is the way we're going to do things. He's softly spoken. He has that in common with Angela Merkel.
Well, Scholz wants to use its presidency of the G7 to develop it into a climate club. What's his plan?
Yeah, well, this is the prime example, and we can expect to hear this expression, a climate club, quite a bit this year. Now, it's an idea that's been going around in academic circles for a few years, and it's trying to tackle this problem that we've had with climate change treaties over the years, that there aren't enough incentives for countries to really follow through on the promises that they make. And at the heart of this is cost. If you want to cut climate change, if you want to fight climate change, you need to raise the price of polluting carbon. And countries worry that if they do that in their country, then companies might just up sticks to other countries, especially big industries, and move their operations there where they don't pay such a high price for carbon. So the idea with a climate club is that you get a group of like-minded countries that want to press ahead, that set roughly equivalent standards on the pricing of carbon, on the pricing of pollution and other things, and they agree to trade under favourable terms with each other. And crucially, countries that are outside it don't get these favourable terms. So that's an incentive for those countries to join. So you can expect Olaf Scholz to be bringing this up at the G7 this year and trying to use it as a springboard for this idea.
So how likely is this to be successful then? How big is Germany's and Olaf Scholz's influence in this club of rich countries?
Well, I think he certainly has potential as a mobiliser to get something like this going. But the big question about the climate club basing it around the G7 would be, well, is it enough if you don't have really big economies like China involved? And you already have industry associations in Germany saying exactly that. If China's not involved in something like this, then what can it really achieve? And that kind of opens up to the bigger question about the relevance of the G7, or whether the G20, this much broader grouping that includes China, also countries from the global south, is more the kind of forum that to get ideas like this really to take effect.
DW's chief international editor, Richard Walker there. Thank you, Richard.